Have you ever looked at someone across a crowded room and felt like your entire reality just shifted? That split-second spark isn't just a feeling, it is a high-speed chemical storm in your brain. Most people think love is a slow burn. They think it takes weeks or months to build. Science proves them wrong. The process of falling in love can take as little as 1/5 of a second. In that tiny fraction of time, 12 distinct areas of your brain begin to fire in unison. You aren't just thinking about them. You are chemically hallucinating. To understand this, we have to look at the cocktail of neurotransmitters that hijack your biology. It starts with dopamine. Dopamine is the brain's primary reward chemical. It is the same substance released when you win money, eat sugar, or take certain illicit drugs. When you lock eyes with someone you find attractive, your brain experiences a dopamine surge. This creates an intense craving. It is the biological equivalent of a hunger pang. You don't just want to see them. You need to see them to satisfy a physiological itch. This explains why love is often described as an addiction. Neuroimaging studies show that the brain activity of a person in early-stage love looks almost identical to the brain activity of a cocaine addict. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for logic and risk assessment, begins to quiet down. This is the physiological basis for the phrase, "love is blind." Your internal alarm system, which usually warns you about red flags or dangerous behaviors, is effectively muted. But dopamine is only the first player in this symphony. Next comes norepinephrine. Norepinephrine is a stress hormone, but in the context of attraction, it acts as a stimulant. It is responsible for the physical symptoms you associate with a crush. Your heart starts racing, your palms get sweaty, your mouth gets dry. It also heightens your focus. When norepinephrine spikes, you develop tunnel vision. The rest of the world fades into a blurry background. Everything else becomes irrelevant except for that one person who is currently the target of your obsession. This is why, in those first few seconds, you feel an inexplicable sense of urgency. You are in a state of hyper-arousal. You are primed for action, even if you are just standing there staring at them. Then, there is serotonin. This is the chemical of mood regulation. When you fall in love, your serotonin levels often plummet. This is ironic. Low serotonin is typically associated with obsessive-compulsive disorder. When your serotonin levels drop, you begin to fixate. You can't stop thinking about the person. You replay the conversation in your head. You wonder what they are doing. You analyze every text message for hidden meanings. You are effectively experiencing a temporary, functional form of OCD. Your brain is prioritizing this person above your own internal stability. These three chemicals, dopamine, norepinephrine, and serotonin, make up the volatile initial phase of attraction. It is a biological drive designed by evolution for a very specific purpose, reproduction. But humans aren't just looking for a fling. We are wired to seek long-term bonds. This is where oxytocin and vasopressin enter the picture. Oxytocin is often called the cuddle chemical. It is released during physical touch, intimacy, and climax. It creates a feeling of profound trust and security. If dopamine is the chase, oxytocin is the anchor. In 2004, researchers at the University of Zurich discovered that oxytocin plays a vital role in social recognition and bonding. It creates an emotional bridge between two people. When your brain releases oxytocin, it signals that the person you are with is safe. It creates a sense of belonging that overrides the restlessness of the dopamine phase. Vasopressin, meanwhile, is associated with long-term commitment and territoriality. In studies of prairie voles, which are famously monogamous, researchers found that vasopressin is the key to their long-term pair bonding. When they blocked vasopressin receptors, the voles stopped being loyal to their partners. So, why does this matter? Because love isn't a mystical force, it is a biological survival mechanism. Think about the timeline. Evolution needed a way to get humans to ignore the risks of vulnerability and focus entirely on finding a mate. If we thought logically about the emotional turmoil and the potential for heartbreak, we might never choose to pair up. By tricking our brains with this specific chemical cocktail, nature ensures that we take the leap. We aren't choosing to fall in love, we are being steered by a complex, ancient chemical steering wheel. Consider the work of Helen Fisher, a biological anthropologist who has spent decades studying the neurobiology of love. She identified that these feelings travel through the reward pathways of the brain that evolved millions of years ago. She found that these systems are essentially ancient. They aren't unique to modern romance. They are part of the same circuitry that drives our desire for food, water, and social connection. But the sheer speed of this process, the 1/5 of a second, is the most fascinating part. It means your brain is constantly scanning, constantly evaluating, and constantly waiting for a chemical trigger. You are not a passive observer of your romantic life. You are a biological entity reacting to specific environmental stimuli. When you see someone, your subconscious brain instantly checks for genetic compatibility, social status cues, and physical indicators of health. If those boxes are checked, the floodgates open. But we have to talk about the dark side of this. If love is a drug, then the withdrawal is real. When a relationship ends, your brain experiences a literal drop in dopamine and serotonin. This is why heartbreak causes physical pain. It isn't just a metaphor. Your brain goes through a chemical crash similar to quitting a stimulant cold turkey. You become irritable, exhausted, and desperately hungry for the person who is no longer there. We are living in an era where we can track these movements in real time. We have functional MRI scans that let us watch the brain light up like a Christmas tree the moment attraction strikes. But science still hasn't answered the biggest question. Why does it feel like more than just chemistry? Why, when we are in love, do we feel like we are tapping into something divine? Perhaps the answer is that the chemistry is the medium, not the message. The chemicals provide the biological infrastructure, but your lived experience, your history, and your personality build the house on top of it. Your upbringing dictates who you are attracted to. Your trauma dictates how you react when that connection is threatened. Your values dictate how you nurture that spark once the chemicals settle down. The chemistry is the spark, but you are the fire. When you look at your partner, you aren't just seeing a collection of neurons and neurotransmitters. You are seeing a narrative that your brain has chosen to prioritize above all else. This creates a paradox. You know you are being chemically manipulated, yet you would not want it any other way. You willingly accept the obsession, the lack of logic, and the risk because it gives life its most vibrant colors. If we were always rational, we would never take the risk of loving someone. We would stay safe, alone, and perfectly stable. But our biology refuses to let us be perfectly stable. It pushes us toward the chaos. It forces us to connect. So, the next time you feel that sudden, inexplicable pull towards someone, remember what is happening behind the scenes. Your dopamine is surging, your norepinephrine is spiking, your serotonin is plummeting. You are a biological machine being updated in real time, but you are also a conscious human being navigating the most profound force of nature. The hidden chemicals are not there to deceive you, they are there to guide you. They are the ancient whispers of your ancestors, telling you that this person in this moment is worth the effort. Does this knowledge change the feeling? Does it make the spark feel less real, or does it make it more impressive? Knowing the recipe for a cake doesn't make the cake taste any less delicious. Knowing the physics of light doesn't make a sunset any less beautiful. And knowing the neurochemistry of love doesn't make your feelings any less significant. It just proves that you are part of an ancient, grand tradition of humanity. You are feeling exactly what millions of people have felt for thousands of years. You are the current iteration of a story that started long before you were born. The most important takeaway is this: the chemicals have a shelf life. The high of early-stage attraction will inevitably subside. That is not a failure of your love. It is the natural transition from the excitement of the hunt to the stability of the home. The initial spike is designed to get you together, but the chemicals that follow, the oxytocin and the vasopressin, are the ones that keep you together. If you rely only on the dopamine, you will be constantly searching for the next fix, moving from person to person as soon as the initial rush fades. But if you respect the transition, if you understand that the chemistry changes to allow for deeper, more complex connections, you find something that lasts. You are essentially moving from a state of intoxication to a state of architecture. You are building something permanent on a foundation that was initially laid by a sudden, volatile burst of chemicals. So don't fear the rush. Understand it, respect it, but realize that the true test of your connection isn't the 1/5 of a second where your brain fires off a warning shot of passion. The test is what you do when the norepinephrine drops and the real work begins. We are all chemistry. We are all biology. But we are also the architects of our own emotional lives. The hidden brain chemicals are the starting point. They are the opening notes of the symphony, but you are the one who decides how the music continues to play. When the dust settles and the chemicals find their new baseline, what are you left with? That, ultimately, is the only question that matters, because if the chemistry is just the ignition, then you are the engine, and you are the one who decides where the journey goes from here. Take a look at your life right now. Are you chasing the spike, or are you building the foundation? Because once you realize the chemicals are just a tool, you gain the power to decide how to use them. You have the biology of a romantic, but you have the mind of a human, and that combination is, quite literally, the most powerful thing in the world.